big-time news coming down from the ITF as they have made changes to the Fed Cup format. Starting next year, 12 nations will compete in a 6-day event in Budapest, and not in November. It'll be in April. The prize money, $18 million, 12 to the players, 6 to the National Tennis Associations. There will be 4 spots that are guaranteed to the previous year finalists, the host nation, and a wild card, and then the 8 other spots in the finals determined by home and away ties that will take place in February. So these changes, much like the ones that we saw for the Davis Cup happening this year. Let's hear now from the ITF President David Haggerty and Billie Jean King.
With this new format, we're able to expand to 20 teams, which is, the bigger part, which is so important. The better part is being able to keep the tradition of home and away in the first round, but add on this finals in one iconic city in Budapest in April in the calendar. We shorten the calendar for the players. They play 2 weeks. They have a longer off season, which is something that they've requested. The prize money is significant. I mean, that's the bolder part. The equal prize money, it's a seminal moment for tennis. And we have the same prize money for the women as we do for Davis Cup and the men. Very, very important.
The ITF has really shown me a lot in that they've really listened, they learned, and like they said, if it isn't perfect, we'll keep tweaking it. I think people have to be calm right now and not be too critical yet until we've lived through it.
Well, some folks are very critical and not calm. One of those, Elise Cornet, said, good job on killing the competition just as they did the Davis Cup. Nobody even bothered to ask the opinion of the players whatsoever. Very disappointing. By the way, they did ask the Players' Council and got input from the Players' Council. France and Elise Cornet, they are in the final that will be a home and away. Australia will host France in November for the Fed Cup final this year. But Chanda, what's your reaction to the ITF making a change, much like they did with the Davis Cup?
Yeah, it's not surprising. Once the changes were made for Davis Cup, you knew Fed Cup was coming. They were waiting to kind of see what made sense, wanted to be able to talk to some of the player representatives. And, nothing is perfect. I mean, I understand the sentiments. I've played plenty of Fed Cup ties, and it's been a great competition. Play for your country. The home and away portion of it is part of what makes it special. So they've tried to retain some of that. And I think right now that's about the best you can do without, going through maybe 1 or 2 iterations of it and seeing kind of what works, maybe what doesn't work, what needs to be tweaked a little bit. But I think it's certainly a step in the right direction because some changes needed to be made in terms of the competition, players, top players being able to play, making themselves available. It was just too difficult 3 weeks, 3 separate weeks over the course of the year.
Fed Cup and Davis Cup are also confusing a little bit for fans because they don't seem to really be a start and an end. It just goes every couple of months. Hey, here's another tie, here's a tie, and you're not sure exactly what's going on. So at least the final part of it will be one place, bunch of teams getting together and see who wins. So at least maybe it'll start getting a following that way. I do love the home and away. That brings a lot of energy to these Davis Cup ties, and that and Fed Cup ties, and we'll be missing that a little bit in the final championship.
Somewhat. You do get the best of both worlds in the qualifying. You get the home and away before the final. What do you make of the change going from having the finals in November to April, Jen?
Yeah, that's the most interesting part of it. The biggest change, in my opinion, from what we expected, the men will play in November, as and it was always the finals of Fed Cup in November. So this will be interesting to see kind of whether players like this a bit more. I do think it can help. A shorter season is always welcome when you play so many weeks out of the course of the year. And Fed Cup will be during a current Fed Cup week. So there's 3 weeks that are already on the calendar. That finals will be during a current week in April. So that part isn't a huge change, but having it over so early in the year, I think it'll be a little bit of a benefit.
Yeah, April 14th next year. That's when the first new Fed Cup final will be, and it'll be on clay court in Budapest. So kind of get the players ready for the French Open. Simone